Welcome back, you guys. We are a little late, but it's okay. It is JT and my man, let's be frank, as we are discussing chasing history or bust. And what we mean by chasing history is we've had some very historic things happen in the NBA over the past week. The Denver Nuggets going to the NBA Finals and sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers. And my team, the Miami Heat, and Jimmy Butler running through the East, running rampant, destroying people's hopes and brackets and bets and analysts. And they're sitting at the number 8 seed, playing tonight at 8:30 to close it out in Boston in front of those salty Boston fans. What is your thoughts? And Frank, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back. The last time we were together was toward the end of the first round of the playoffs for the NBA. And I remember making a couple predictions with you. One of those predictions was that LeBron wasn't going to make it to the finals. And the other prediction was that Miami was going to make it to the finals and they were going to win the championship. I know you and I both kind of agreed on that predictions because I know you're a big Heat fan. And LeBron having the opportunity to be able to advance to a final, but instead he allowed his team to be swept 4-0, losing 2 at home on the way out. Couldn't even win in one game in front of their home crowd to push a game 5, getting swept away. This is after, of course, he earned the scoring lifetime title in the NBA. And I told you then, which was a couple weeks ago, that if he doesn't win the championship, it's going to be all for naught.
And we are sitting at all in for naught?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He will not go down. Well, and most historians, when they go back and look at it and they compare these types of different stats and accomplishments and stuff, I still believe Michael Jordan will be the GOAT, and LeBron will be somewhere in the vicinity of people talking about below Kobe Bryant.
Okay, and it's funny you say that because a lot of people don't put Kobe Bryant in that top tier group just due to the fact that he is as we would say, carbon copy of his airness, Michael Jordan. In saying that, so I guess we can start with LeBron real quick because that's your favorite NBA player, and I know it. Now I know. Is with the murmurs of him after getting swept, there was a lot of conversation on he had a lot to think about. He did possibly murmur about possibly retiring. There's a lot of speculations that he won't retire because he is owed 90 some odd $1 million over the next 2 years. But I think, and this is just my speculation, is I think he sees the writing on the wall when it comes to the West and having to fight Sacramento to Game 7 and having to really push that envelope. And then the Grizzlies, obviously with John Morant's antics, and we'll talk about John later. And then running into a hot buzzsaw of a Denver Nuggets team it's been an up-and-coming team since the bubble when Jovic was still coming of age and Murray balling out like he did in the bubble and as we saw in these past NBA conference finals. I think LeBron might see the writing on the wall that he's not going to make it to the NBA Finals.
Not at least as a starter. Maybe coming off the bench.
With who?
I don't know. I mean, if he's willing to swallow his pride and if he's really chasing another championship, being that sixth man that comes off the bench. But I don't think he would be able to do that. He would want to retire before coming off the bench. No superstar wants to be the former superstar coming off the bench and to play a game. So I don't know. I think that he is going to look around. And, of course, we know there is no loyalty with LeBron James. He will look for another super team to hitch his wagon to and get rid of all the up-and-coming players so that way he can maybe bring some of his friends over with him.
So,
or maybe whatever team he goes on that they'll sell off all their good players so they can move up higher in the draft to draft his son.
And that's a very good question as his son goes to USC next this coming year. But and I have a bigger question on that. Is there's been a lot of talk about like if LeBron James goes to whatever team he decides to go to, that it's his team, and I don't think that's the case.
No, it can't be any longer.
And
I know players like what's his name, Green, the guy from
Draymond, your favorite player, Draymond Green.
Yeah, Draymond. That dude is such in love with LeBron. He would crown him the leader of the Warriors if he were to happen to go to the Warriors. He'd be like, "Oh no, LeBron's the leader of this team."
That'd be so disrespectful to Steph Curry.
He doesn't care. He's a big LeBron fan. He wants that attaboy from LeBron. Maybe he'll tweet about him or something. I don't know. The whole LeBron thing is, why are we talking about the loser who didn't make it to the finals? We're talking about the Nuggets, and we're going to talk about the possible upcoming Heat joining them after they put away the Boston Celtics.
Tonight, it is going down. So let's talk about the Nuggets. Obviously, you remember the Nuggets from the early 90s, late 90s, the Carmelo Anthony player that he took him to the Western Conference Finals, never made to a finals. But what do you think that says about how the team wasn't bought? They built the team through the draft, through trades, through players that, people had forgotten about, like Eric Gordon.
Yeah, this is the same type of blueprint we've talked about before here on this channel, where we've talked about growing those home teams. We've talked about how it's done in the NFL, and we've touched on it here in the NBA as well. Places like Milwaukee, places like Miami, places like Boston. Boston is another good example.
Yep. Boston is 100%.
We see these teams that are doing it the right way in building their organizations because, you got a player go down. Well, we're not all reliant on one superstar. The team steps up and fills in those gaps when needed. And we saw that take place in the playoffs last round with Miami versus the New York Knicks, where Butler wasn't fully 100%, and he had to leave a game partially and stuff like that. So we saw the other players stepping up and filling those roles because Miami's done a great job in building a team from the organization bottom up.
And you said that very perfectly. Just on with Miami, Eric Spoelstra is obviously not respected across the NBA.
No, he's never in the conversation of a great head coach, and that's probably because of the LeBron and his 21 championships that he was promising that was going to be bringing to Miami. And really, that's what it is, I think. I think it shouldn't be a knock on Spoelstra, but it is because of LeBron. He wins this championship with Jimmy Butler. If they're able to overcome Boston and then go to the finals and take care of business with the Nuggets, he should be in that conversation with some of the best head coaches in this era.
And you make a good point on that when it comes to Eric Spoelstra's #1 coach of the year ever. Mm-hmm. And what I love about the Miami Heat organization is Pat Riley picked him out of their videotaping editing area and say, "Hey, I think you got something." And that just shows Pat Riley how much he sees not just about a person, but how far he can groom them.
Yeah,
to be
in a good way,
right? 100%. Because think about it, when LeBron and Chris Bosh came to join Dwayne Wade and them, Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslem in Miami, and it wasn't going according to plan the first year, and LeBron James marches up to the Godfather and tells him, "I want you to come down and coach," and he's like, "No, your coach is down there. Your coach is Eric Spoelstra. Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So you need to go sit down." And I think that's what makes that organization so great. Is it's not a player-run organization. It is an executive and coaching ran organization.
How an organization should be ran. We've talked about this at length, especially in the NFL, because we had so many more opportunities to meet during the NFL season, and we talked about organizations and how to do it right. And we talked about Jacksonville and bringing in a different type of culture with a winning coach, with Doug Peterson. But it all starts at the front office, starts with the head coach, and then that culture is pushed onto the players, and that's essentially what needs to take place at every level of sports, right? If you look at some of the great teams in the MLB, the Yankees, for example. Remember, they were just dominant.
Yes.
Why? Because they had great leadership. And I know people were like, well, they went out and bought a bunch of players. Okay, great. But if you buy a bunch of players and you don't have anybody to manage them, they're not going to win the championship, right? You need great management. You got great front office skills that help that. That's something that I know during the Last Dance that Jerry Reinsdorf, right? Yes, got a bad rap for, but when he made the statement, organization wins championships or something like that. And I know Michael Jordan took offense to that, saying no, players take. I'd never seen you make a jump shot or whatever, take a jump shot. But in a sense, he is correct because it takes a culture to build. Michael Jordan was part of that culture once. Jerry was putting in the right pieces around Jordan. And the coaches and the management and everything from the owner down to the players. I mean, it has to be a effort, all people going in the same direction. Kind of like in the military, right? You can't win a battle if you don't have all of your units moving in the same direction following the same game plan. You're not going to win.
No, right, and you're 100% correct, and that's what I love and seeing the Miami Heat, and as long as I've watched the Miami Heat play and very closely, is the narrative over the past week has been, Miami has four undrafted players in their starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Spoelstra was like at the podium after they won Game 3 was like, I'm pretty tired of that narrative due to the fact because you guys are talking about these undrafted players. But they've had him since the bubble. So they were playing in the NBA Finals in 2020.
Right.
Undrafted players.
Why is that even a talking point at this point? Because they've been in the league now for numerous years. Why is that even a topic? It's because they want to show disrespect toward the non-flashy team, which is right now the non-sexy team, I guess you would say. And I don't know why. They've done a phenomenal job. Jimmy Butler is one of the hottest people you would want to go see play basketball right now. And the disrespect they continue to get on places like ESPN and all these other places saying that they only got a 17% chance of winning. And then they embarrass the Boston Celtics, winning by almost 30 points. And they're like, well, they probably only got a 20-some% chance to win the series now. Really, ESPN?
And I see someone been watching my takes. So
yeah, you got some awesome takes, and you pose fantastic questions back to these mainstream sporting places where they just seem to care about the East Coast big names such as Boston, New York, or these places, and totally disrespect Miami. Don't forget Miami's won how many different championships? They won one with, of course, with Shaq and D Wade. Yeah, they got 3. Okay, thank you.
So we have 3 altogether, but we were always, this would be our 3rd trip in the past 4 years. So we've been in the Eastern Conference Finals 4 of the past 5 years, and we're looking at going back to another NBA Finals in the past 3 years.
And the disrespect that this team gets because they don't like the way they do it. They're not flashy. And they're not Eric Spoelstra is going to go to the podium. He's going to give you facts. He's going to tell you, hey, this is what happened. This is what we're going to do differently. He's not that flashy guy that they want to sit there, and they're not going to increase their ratings or whatever. So they disrespect them, and it's just absolutely just wrong the way they treat that team and how hard they've worked, and obviously what they've built there over, like you said, over the last 5 years, they've been a competitor every year.
And we understand it, like, the NBA is a long season. We understand that. But I think one of the best things that the NBA has done over the past couple of years is the play-in tournament. Because sometimes there were those teams that were just right on the cusp. And just like we've seen in the NFL, those teams that catch that fire towards that like last 2 or 3 games, they can run through because they're all clicking on all cylinders finally. And Eric Spoelstra said that as well. He's like, in March, he saw the click. He saw that they are officially clicking now. And Miami did play Denver well in the regular season. Tyler Hero had one of his best games against Denver. And they're talking about like having 3 major star players or 3 major players to be in the NBA championship, which I think Denver and Miami isn't that typical mold that they're used to, where they have that.
They would consider them small market teams.
Perfect. And I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you've been watching sports a little longer than I have. Do you believe sometimes the mainstream media, and I hate hitting on these guys.
I don't.
Do you think they don't like the fact that it doesn't work out sometimes how they hope it works out? Because if they would have had an LA Lakers and a Boston,
they would have loved that. They would have lost it on themselves having that matchup. They'd be like, "Oh, this is the matchup we want," right? They want the Boston LA, because they get the East and West Coast and all the glitz and glamour that comes along with it. They want that. They want that, especially it's right down the road for them. They're in Bristol. They, right there in Boston, they can go right down there and just in their backyard. They absolutely want stuff like that. That's why I think they privately root for these teams for these teams not to make it. They didn't want the Bucks to make it back when the Bucks made the NBA Finals. They didn't want the Bucks in there. They didn't want the Suns in there. And yet they were. That was one of the most entertaining NBA Finals I had watched in a very long time. Was the Bucks Suns series. And I think that's what we're going to get with a Miami Nuggets series.
Who do you think takes it?
Miami, 6 games.
Why?
Because they're the underdog. Everyone's counting them out. If they make it to the NBA Finals, they will be counted out. They'll be saying the same thing they said as they went up against Boston, as they went against the New York Knicks. They have no chance of winning. They have 18% chance of winning the series and stuff like that. They will disrespect them. And Jimmy Butler is going to go in there with a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to prove it to the nation that he is that player that everyone knows he could be a champion.
He's that dude. Did you see the meme? And I actually saw the game with Greg Williams when Jimmy it was like the last 5 to 8 minutes of the game, and Jimmy or Greg Williams from Boston hits that 3-pointer against Jimmy, and he's yawning at him, man. I mean, he is like in his face, and like Jimmy's like, okay, all right. And he made a point, like, I want him on me. And he made him feel small. And I don't think people realize Jimmy Butler's about that life. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Butler is a monster on the court. That guy will give you everything he possibly has. And his team has all the faith in him to take whatever shot he wants. He has that green light all the time. So I think Miami, it's going to be a close series. And the only thing that kind of like Boston can't seem to close, and I don't know why. Like they would be up just a couple, points, and then they just unravel. I'm not sure if it's the coaching, but I think this NBA playoffs has showed the discipline, but also the structure of having that coach, and not just bailing on a coach just because you have a bad season. Like, no, they have stuck with the same coach. They've stuck with the same players. They might add a piece here or there. Like we added Kevin Love at the trading deadline. Somebody that's useful. So I think with that, I think in saying those things, I think Miami could take it in 6 as well. I would like for them to win it on their home court and hoist that trophy one more time. Would be awesome. But I would need a superstar performance from Jimmy. Kyle Lowry has been a big difference, and I think he's super underrated, obviously because he played in Toronto.
Yeah.
Coming down to I was super excited watching Kyle Lowry last year. Obviously, he had the hamstring injury last year. He wasn't able to compete at 100% level. but he set that tempo going into when we lost against the Hawks. He scored over 30 points, which showed me that, like, even though he didn't play well or the team didn't play well, Kyle Lowry still played well and tried to wheel the team across the finish line against Atlanta, but wasn't enough. But Kyle Lowry's shown up, Kevin Love, Bam Adebayo, Gabe Martin. I mean, dude, this team, when they are firing all cylinders, I don't think there's any team that can beat them.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. The matchup I'm going to want to see is their big men on Jovic. Is that how you say his name?
Jokic.
Yeah.
Jokic.
I want to see that. I want to see that matchup. How does Miami handle him?
That guy's a monster, dude.
He
like
is. MVP, man.
He made Anthony Davis invisible.
Yeah.
Non-factor.
Right. So what's Miami's answer for him?
Bro, I'm telling you, we got Zach
Zeller. I know we're looking ahead a little bit, but
we're okay with it because as much as I would like to see Miami win, that's the only thing that makes me nervous about this matchup is because of Jamal Murray and Jokic. Yeah. Jokic is on that path right now of I'm pissed off because I didn't get my third MVP, and he's on it. He is on that trajectory of I should have been the MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan didn't even have 3 MVPs in a row, which is kind of crazy in a way, actually. But I know there were some they didn't want to give him 3 in a row. I mean, could you speak to that a little bit or no?
I don't know why they wouldn't want to give it to him. Dude earned it every single time he was out there for every season, every championship season. He should have had an MVP. That dude was a monster, man. He was the leader of that team, and I don't believe Karl Malone should have gotten those MVPs that he got. But as Jordan said in that documentary, he took that personal when they gave it to Karl Malone. So we saw the end result of that.
And we did. He's wearing the rings and Karl Malone isn't.
Correct. So he can have that MVP trophy all he wants. Jordan got the rings.
Yes, exactly. He's got them. So here's something I'm pretty excited about, and I know you're not tracking, which is next year, the CBA and the NBA have agreed that they have to play at least 65 games now in order to qualify for regular season awards now. It has gotten that bad that the NBA has had to finally put a rule in place for it. Now, me doing a little bit of research like I do, I did not realize that Michael Jordan played 80 games for 9 years.
Yeah.
And there was a stretch for 82 games at a higher level at that. And I'm like, so he didn't
take days off.
No.
Or games off because he in that documentary, once again, I'll point back to it because it's his own words. He says he didn't, when a fan bought a ticket, they were coming to see him, and he didn't want to let those fans down by not being there and especially not performing. So he understood what it entailed being the status that he was in, that he wasn't going to take a day off if he could help it.
Right. And I think you're 100% right, because as I've gone to basketball games a lot lately, I had the pleasure of watching Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero play last year out in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And, they crushed them, which was awesome. But just being able to see the player I wanted to go see,
right?
And he was out on the court. When I went to go see Miami play in 2013, when they were on that 25-game winning streak, they lost the winning streak before getting to Charlotte. They lost to Chicago the game prior. And LeBron didn't play. D-Wade didn't play. And I was super upset because I'm like, yo, I go watch my guy.
Yeah.
And he's not there. So.
And I think that's been a sentiment, at least within the fan base of the NBA for a while now, that these guys, they get paid a lot of money. We know these contracts are very lucrative for a lot of these players, and they take they take so many games off now, and you're buying your ticket ahead of time most of the time.
Yes.
You got to buy ahead of time, and you go to this basketball game to watch, your favorite basketball star, and he's not playing he's not even injured. He's just resting or whatever. And you're like, dude, and they've complained about the back-to-back days. I'm like, dude, I work back-to-back days.
You and I both.
I know it's not putting the ball in the hoop and playing against these other monsters, but dude, you're a monster too.
Right. So as a fan as yourself, and I know like as you've you've been to games and stuff like that, it almost makes you nervous to buy a ticket. That either early in the season or like mid. I think it doesn't encourage a player or a fan to go unless it's a playoff environment. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking playoffs, like
And it's sad that the NBA had to put this rule in, stating that they got to play at least 65 games, and they play 82 games, so that's what, over 3/4 of the season. They got to play at least 3/4 of the season. How many of these players were not playing 3/4 of the season?
majority of them, like
Right?
majority of them.
That's how many of these players were taking 30 games off?
It's quite a bit, and it's pretty crazy because like I was just hearing today, LeBron's 38, almost 39, or 37 going 38, 1 2, and how like they can pencil him in for like 50 games, and I'm like 50 games. I'm like, that's it. I go out of 80. Hold on, wait.
Well, no wonder you were the 8th seed.
So like, isn't that wild? So if Denver, all right, so if Denver wins, what does it do for that fan base, and what does it do for that franchise if they're able to hoist that Larry O'Brien trophy?
Yeah, it energizes that fan base. It justifies all the hard work that they've put in, and it will show. And being their small market team, maybe being that small market team, now that you got that championship, you can attract other players that maybe could fit that mold a little better. Maybe a good complement to the rest of the team and stuff. And I think it in either way, we're going to have if Miami wins, either way, and decide in the finals here, we'll have a team that hasn't hoisted the trophy. Well, Miami hasn't done it in a while, and of course Denver. So either case, we're going to see an energized fan base, and I think an energized organization where it's laying down this blueprint of this is how you win championships now. We're going back to how we used to win championships, and that was by building a team, and showing these other organizations this is how you're supposed to win.
No, and you're 100% right. And I totally agree with you on that because Denver's a small market team. Unfortunately, I remember when Carmelo Anthony played for Denver. Obviously, he was a ticket for the show. But doing that and seeing what they did there, and them having it, and on top of it, they have an international player as their face of the franchise, just like Milwaukee does.
Yeah.
So I think
and the Mavericks, right?
Yep, and the Mavericks too.
And there's another team out there that has a
European it's
star.
Gonna be that guy from France that the Spurs got over the draft. Wimbabe or
Wimbabe.
some guy. Anyways, some guy. Yeah. But so with Miami winning another championship and adding that to, I think it would be, here's what I think can happen, and I think will happen, hopefully. Miami goes to the NBA Finals, beats Boston tonight, goes to the NBA Finals because they're going to need the rest as well, too, because the finals start June 1st regardless. So if it goes to a Game 7, they're going to be fucking tired. Or, and they go to the NBA Finals, they win the NBA Finals, Udonis Haslem finally gets that 4th ring. He's already said he's retiring. This is his last ride. So, him being the OG, that godfather to that team, for 20 years, and being able to ride off in the sunset, I think that would be an amazing gesture and gift to Udonis Haslem and what he's been able to provide as a veteran to Jimmy Butler and that organization as stability, and kind of hand that torch off to Jimmy. And I think Jimmy fits that culture so perfectly to kind of pass that torch from Udonis over to Jimmy to move it forward. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I don't really have much more to add to that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it would be a great send off, and of course another jewel in the crown of Miami. And once again, being
Jimmy.
No, not being being Jimmy, but once again, just showing you that the hard work you put into the organization actually pays off outside of going out and having to grab every single superstar you're able to.
Yeah, I think it definitely kicks against the agenda of what NBA teams want, which is they just want to buy players, and it's like, no, grow your players, develop your players, and you'll have them.
Because remember, we don't have a long development any longer that comes into the NBA. They only have to play, 1 year in college?
1 year, and that's it.
1 year. So there's not a whole lot of development that takes place in that year. Do they grow? Yeah, they'll grow. But it would have been a lot more growth if you would have saw it, second, third year, maybe 3 years in college, playing under, these coaches and stuff like that, especially some of these bigger programs, and getting that type of culture that you go into the NBA. But what you're seeing now, you're seeing that come out the European side now. The European is actually bringing in talent that has built up through their skills and things like that. And I think they come more ready to play than some of our NBA players that are coming in through just 1 year of college. So
no, I think you hit that right on the head. And I think that's something that's really coming down the line, because if you think about it, a lot of these players that are lottery players, they're 19 years old. They can't even order a beer yet.
Yeah.
And they haven't even got their man body really yet either.
No, not yet.
No. And so you're telling me at 19 years old, I'm going to give you $200 million, which I'm just throwing a number out there.
Yeah.
To be my franchise player. And I think Jordan said this correctly. So Jordan was just on a podcast just recently, and his airness, Michael Jordan, said that we are paying players for the potential that we expect them to be at. They're no longer earning that hard-earned money that Jordan and Scottie and Rodman and Kukoc and those guys and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and those players that got those big contracts, but they had to earn those contracts, because those rookie contracts didn't pay what they're paying now.
Right.
So I think you would almost have to go back to almost that some type of model like that. I think it's like,
I don't want, because the market's the market, right? If a team's going to pay $200 million for a player, they're going to pay $200 million for a player. And I don't want to put a cap on that, because
the NFL did.
Well, I know the NFL did, but if a franchise is going to be that dumb to spend all their money on a player, then let them be it. Be the smarter franchise and grow your franchise the right way, and you'll see the dividends pay in the long run. And I would, if I was the owner, I would be looking for those GMs and those head coaches that understood that we're building a culture here, and we're not going to go after the flashy high player lottery pick that we're going to pay $200 million, because we're not doing that in this organization. We're going to play it smart. We're going to get good, fundamental basketball players that understand the culture and understand that we are about winning a championship.
And I think that's a great way you put it, because I don't think that's echoed enough, unfortunately. And I look at player development, because look at Jimmy Butler went to a junior college before he even got to a big program. So he was in the system for 3 years before he, got to the NBA, and I think you said it right. A lot of our overseas players, our international players, are older and are better fundamentally sound when it comes to their craft. But I feel like their dedication is at a larger level than what we see in our college athletes. Now, I'm not saying every college athlete. I'm just saying the ones that are.
Well, the NBA got a wake-up call back in the early 2000s. If you remember, the Dream Team that lost that year, and they had to put together a whole new team to be able to reclaim the gold. But it was a lot of hard work. They had to get Kobe Bryant. They had to get these other players. D Wade was on there. Yep. LeBron James.
But Kobe was the main factor.
Right.
Kobe was the big.
He was basically the Michael Jordan that was pushing the other guys, saying, we're not going to lose. We're not here to lose. They're not our friends. We're here to win. Right. And that's the mentality I think a lot of NBA players no longer have. Like, they're not my friend when we're on the court. You're not my friend. Don't look at me. Don't joke with me. Right?
You're right.
I'm not here to be your friend.
You're 100% right.
I'm here to win a game. That's
Yes.
what I'm being paid to do.
Yes.
And what we've seen is this culture now of, hey, we're all buddies. We're all buddies. Hey, let's hug it up. I don't want to hug you. Get out of here, dude. Don't even talk to me till the season's over.
And it was funny because so apparently Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo are friends. They had asked Bam, "Hey, do you guys talk after the game?" He's like, "I don't talk to him. What? Why am I gonna talk to Jason Tatum?
Yeah.
We're on two different teams here." And that's the crazy part, is like, he understands that, but I think it's within that culture of, this is how we do business. Because Jimmy Butler is compared a lot to, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, that, because he has that takeover gear. Give me the ball and get out of my way.
Yeah.
And we've seen it over the playoffs, and he's been super underrated. Yes, he is that alpha male mentality that, hey, I'm gonna rip your throat out and I'm gonna watch you die. Like, it's like that. But he knows his ability. He is confident in his craft, and he is confident in his teammates as well. And I think that's the type of individual, and I think that's the type of culture that the Miami Heat culture fit. I think that's why he fits so well in Miami, is that he has that hard work ethic. That's what Miami wants.
Mm-hmm.
They want that from their star. And it's great to see. It is great to see Jimmy with the success he has. Moving on to Ja Morant. I know you've probably seen it a little bit. I know you've seen a couple of my takes on the Ja Morant situation. What is your thoughts on Ja Morant? And just, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just don't think some of these players understand their perception as a brand. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, obviously, social media has given, everyone a window into your life, whether you like it or not at this point, if you're active on social media. And sometimes those dumb things that we do is caught on social media because it's, like I said, a window that has no curtains and people can see. And these young guys who are thrusted into the stardom sometimes forget that. However, I believe the punishment was overreacting to the situation, though. I don't think the punishment fit the crime in this situation. And for companies to threaten to pull their sponsorships and stuff from endorsements or whatever from him, I think it's kind of ridiculous. You're hiring these young guys.
But he broke the law.
What law did he break?
He was intoxicated handling a firearm.
Okay.
Tell me what law that says
he was intoxicated and he had a handgun
in a strip club. Yes,
it was on him.
Yeah. He was like, hey.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was like in his car. Like,
well, that was the other one, but the investigators, when the following report finally came out from the Denver situation, it concluded, the NBA investigators included that he was intoxicated, and Ja Morant did say, I have an issue. Now tell me what, and you being based out of the great state of Florida, where Ron DeSantis is, my man.
Yes, our man.
What clinic you can go to for like 6 days and say, hey man, I need to hang out and tell me my problems.
Yeah.
And not be in there for 3 weeks at minimum. Tiger Woods was there for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Hanging out, living his best life.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're going to have these issues arise, especially when you mix, youth with a lot of money, a lot of fame. They're going to make mistakes. Should he have had that handgun waving around a nightclub? Absolutely not. Right. But we have to remember at the same time, though, nobody was hurt in the incident. Could they have been hurt? Possibly. Yes. Right. We have to understand that these young guys, they are young. There has to be a punishment and a consequence, but it can't be so harsh that there's no coming back from this guy. You may damage him even further with a punishment that's way over proportioned versus a more proportioned type of punishment for him. So we look at what happened to NFL player for the Atlanta Falcons who was gambling, right? And what did they do? Suspend him for like the entire season, didn't they?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley. He's in the Jacksonville Jaguars now, living his best life with Trevor Lawrence.
Right. I mean, you see how the overreaction. I know that's not the same as waving a handgun in a nightclub. However, there has to be some proportionality in the punishment that goes along with these things. And sometimes the organizations, they overreact because the media gets a hold of it and they don't want to answer the questions no more. They just want to say, hey, look, see, we punished that guy. We punished him. He's gone for the entire year. And, and screw the long-term consequences that he may have to suffer now. We may have just ruined our investment that we had in him. Instead of the team saying, hey, we're looking into this. We're going to actually bring him in and we're going to put him through a process of steps before he even goes back to play basketball. It's going to be monitored by our team staff, by our stuff, and they're going to be, our team staff is going to have a third party that oversees them to make sure everything's transparent in what we're doing. That would be a better course of action. You put this guy back into the organization around people who are going to support him instead of just throwing him out and saying, hey, you're being punished and do you boo or whatever, right? We get to that point you just start ruining these players who have come in into all this money and none to their fault of getting paid, right? The organizations are, again, we talked about this about 15 minutes ago. The organizations are the ones that are throwing $200 million at these young players. I get $200 million as an 18-year-old. I'm probably waving machine guns inside a nightclub, okay?
You bring and you know what? Hey, Memphis, if you're listening, hey, let's be frank. Hey, are you available for hiring and consulting for the Memphis Grizzlies if they called you?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Guitar Tim, welcome, man.
Yes, Guitar Tim, welcome. We are glad to see you. Yeah, he took a break and he's back on, just like I am. But I think you said that perfectly. I wish the PR team from Memphis would take a page out of your take right now and take some notes and be like, man, because you know what? I don't think I've heard anybody talk about it that way. And I think you said it perfectly when it came to that. I couldn't even say that any better, Frank. I think you crushed it. I think that is
because
the right course of action.
There has to be some level of grace that has to come along with it, right? And we see this. We do not only see this in the overreaction like this. We see this in all kinds of aspects of life. We throw off this harsh punishment, but there is no room to learn. There's no room to be redeemed. It's all you made a mistake, and no matter how big or small the mistake was. Now, if he murdered somebody, obviously, yeah, he has to go to jail, right? He broke a major law. A law that, right, you're not going to play in the NBA no more. You're not going to play in the NFL no more. Right? But this, again, yeah, was it a crime? Yes. Was it a severe crime? No, I don't think so. I think that, organizations have a responsibility to these players more than they are probably showing. They should have, whether their mentorship programs that they have in there with younger players and accountability that accountability things that are built around, as a young player, I would need a mentor and someone to hold me accountable, right? Checking in on me. Hey man, how's it going? What are you up to? Are you hitting the gym today? Are you hitting the practice facility? Are you putting the work in? And stuff like that. Instead, they're given all this money and they're released and say, go do your. This is why they're off like 30 games a year.
No, you're right, and I think you said it perfectly because as you were a young man at one point in time, and as I was too. That's something that you hope for. Is you hope that someone does give you that that mentorship and guidance you do need, because you don't know the ins and outs of the NBA. Unfortunately, you don't know the ins and outs of the NFL does that mentoring thing for. Yeah, yes, they do. Kennedy's like that.
Yeah, and we see. I think we see a lot less incidents with the NFL than we do the NBA.
And you know why? Because they're the same age, but yeah, think about it. By the time they make it to the NFL, like, they're already married. They've got a kid already by then. Like they've
And
got
also because they've been in college a lot longer.
3 years minimum.
Yeah, a lot longer than these NBA players that are coming in with only 1 year.
So
There's a lot of factors, and it goes back to the league and the organizations who unintentionally fail these players.
but it goes back to the culture, like we talked about earlier, like with
And
Miami
I'm not going to give I'm not giving the players escape either. There is a level of responsibility that the players have to live up to as well. But again, being 18, 19 years old, giving them, a $50 million signing bonus, dude, I'm going to act crazy if I'm 18, 19 years old with $50 million in the bank.
I wouldn't even know what to do. I wouldn't even know what to do with my life. So,
Yeah,
you hated me.
Yeah, Yvonne's right. The NBA makes a lot more money too, as far as contracts go, with a lot of
more guaranteed money,
more guaranteed upfront money. And
yes,
and if you're not mature, and a lot of mature people get in trouble when they get a lot of money, especially if they come from no money. When you come from no money and into a lot of money, and you don't have that proper education, and not so much education like schooling, but education on how to handle a lot of money, you're going to find yourself into trouble way more than someone that maybe came from a more of a background that understood how money worked a little bit better, and understood what types of pitfalls that come along with money. Because what happens when you get a lot of money? A lot of times when you're young, you get a lot of fake friends around you, right? Get a lot of fake friends around you that make you do or encourage, and I'm not gonna say make you, encourage you to do stupid stuff.
Highly encourage.
because the buck still ultimately ends with that individual. He still has to make that decision. But surrounding yourself with a lot of people that are just there because you got money, and because they hang around you, you're going to pay for their drinks, you're going to pay for their clothes, you're going to pay for their whatever because you got this money, without a proper mentor program ship that is missing, an accountability mentorship where they call, check in, making sure they're doing the things that they need to be doing to be productive for the organization. It's a failure from the organization standpoint as well.
No, 100%. And I think what and I hate using well, I don't hate, but I really like using the fact of what Miami does, and I think Miami does a really good job of it. Even though like Udonis hasn't really played a lot of basketball the last couple of years, they've kept him signed on the roster. Still, he still has to do everything else like all the other players, but he's that guy, that anchor for that organization to hold those players accountable as that big brother.
Yeah.
Say, hey, bro, don't like. Udonis Haslem is an undrafted player from Florida. He's from down south of Miami, that rough area. So, like, he understands about that life. And the crazy part is actually Lil Wayne tried to reach out to Ja, try to find a way to get a hold of him, because even Wayne went to jail for a year. Lil Wayne, you're talking about one of the greatest rappers to ever live. He went to jail. Mm-hmm. So if you don't think Ja, like, those type of things have repercussions, like,
right.
I hope he does get the help that he really gets, and he does find that individual that can get to him before he really does mess everything up. And now he's out of the league trying to come back like a Gilbert Arenas. He never recovered from his gun incident.
Nope. And I tell you, it's there's accountability on both sides, but the organization should have that larger shareholder, that accountability, because they're the ones that are investing in these players. Exactly. As a shareholder, you have the responsibility to make sure your company, your investment's doing well, and that's what these organizations are ultimately doing. They're buying stock into these players, and they're saying, okay, here's your, here's all this money. Go do. I hope that you're going to win this championship now. And the dude's out there partying until 3, 4 a.m. in the morning and getting into trouble. Nothing good ever happens at after 11 p.m. at night.
Hey, that's what the great Tony Dungy said, remember?
Yes. Nothing ever good happens after 11 p.m. at night. Nothing good. Only trouble.
I promise you, trust me.
Right. Tony Dungy had a very disciplined team when he was a head coach, didn't he?
He did.
And what happened? I know they were very close to winning a championship in Tampa. He left, and John Gruden came in, and there was still a lot of accountability left over from Dungy, because the instilling in the culture in Tampa because of what Dungy had done with the staff and the players and stuff like that. What happened shortly after that Super Bowl win? Things fell apart because Gruden wasn't a disciplinary. He wasn't about he wasn't about that life. He was about the flashy stuff and stuff like that. He wasn't about that type of culture that requires accountability. And that's why you saw Buccaneers get in trouble after that and stuff like that, and not do as well. There's a lot of other factors that played into that, but it comes right back down to the culture of the organizations. What are they expecting of their coaches, and what are they expecting of their players?
And I think you hit that right on the head with the mentoring. John Morant is really super young, talented athlete, and I hope he finds that mentor that he needs. I think Memphis had a lot of promise, but just didn't have the right core people to hold everybody, because the coach can only hold you so accountable. It's
right,
like
yeah.
It's like we say, your peers will it will hurt more if your peers hold you accountable than an upper individual holds you accountable, because those people that are left and right of you that you see every day, those are the people that are supposed to be holding you accountable.
Right. I was just thinking about the accountability. The head coach is kind of like your lieutenant, and then you got to come down from your lieutenant and the sergeant who's the drill sergeant or whatever they're called, who's in the barracks with the soldiers, is ultimately the one who's really kind of laying out the punishments, laying out the agendas and stuff like that, because he's right there with them all the time. And that's what you need in those types of organizations. You need somebody like you mentioned, the player from Miami who's on the roster. He does everything else the players does, but he's basically there to hold everybody else accountable. And that's what you need.
Well, 100%. So we're at the 9-minute mark. So give me your bold prediction for the Miami game tonight. Is it going to be a blowout game, or you think it's gonna go?
No,
it's going to be close.
It's going to be close. It's going to be close tonight, only because Boston is going to be fighting with everything they got, and really, I think that, well, it's going to be close because Boston's going to come to play because their backs are against the wall right now. It's a must-win game. If they don't win this game, they're out. So they have to play their hardest. But I don't think it's going to be enough. The Miami is going to be able to overcome an early onslaught from Boston. Boston's going to try to knock out Miami early, but Miami will weather the surge, the push, and weather that through and come out victorious tonight in 5 games.
So I concur with you on that. I do have a lot of other people, like at my gym I go to on a daily basis. They like to hear my opinion, and it's weird. But I think with Miami being the way they kind of got embarrassed on their home floor, I know they really wanted to close it out. They didn't, unfortunately. They took it personal. I think Jimmy's going to go off for 30-plus points. Bam's going to go off for 20. Kyle Lowry, he's going to get some. I think they're gonna come out aggressive. They are going to come out with intensity like we saw in Game 3. And I think they are going to try to put this away as quickly as possible. And then secondly, how you said about organizations giving their money, to kind of rattle my brain back. Duncan Robinson. We all know Duncan Robinson. Miami paid him $155 million shortly after the bubble, right? He was teetering about trade talks and everything like that. The organization challenged him to not just be a great 3-point shooter, but to really improve his game. And as you're seeing in the playoffs this year, he's coming off the screens, he's going to the hole, he's cutting up, he's cutting those lanes, and he's doing more than just doing a catch and shoot type of a player. And I think that goes back to, like we talked about, that culture that they invest, but they're not going to bail on you right away. They want to see you fulfill that requirement of that contract.
Right.
So I think they do a great thing. If and when Miami wins tonight, I think when we go to the NBA Finals, it's going to be a back and forth game. Denver plays well at home. Miami plays well at home. Tyler Hero is rumored supposed to be available for Game 1 in the Finals. So having that third walking bucket like Tyler Hero, but it all depends on how it's going to help with his his shooting performance. If Miami wins, it might come down to Game 7, Frank.
Yeah.
On that, but I think it's going
So
to
is
be
that your
back.
bold prediction? Your bold
I
prediction
yeah,
is going 7 games?
I think it's going to go 7 games.
Wow. Okay.
Because the last time they played the Lakers, they went to Game 6, and Jimmy had that historic 45 plus game point game and play almost the whole entire game.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the finals?
Finals is going to be Nuggets and Heat, and Heat wins in 6.
1-6, man, that'd be a great day if Miami got to hoist that trophy again.
Yep.
And just for Jimmy, just because of that dude, that guy's a dude.
I'm cheering them because you're my brother, and I know you love the Heat. So I'm cheering. But taking off my my Homer gear for a second, I think the Heat has the momentum for this. I know Denver's worked really hard. I know they have something to prove as well. It's going to be a great matchup. I think it's going to be a very entertaining finals, like I mentioned earlier in today's stream. It's going to be a very entertaining finals. It's going to be something similar to what we saw in Phoenix and Milwaukee, where one team got out to a big 2-0 lead, remember? And Milwaukee came back fighting back to win in 6. We could see something similar to that. That was so exciting. I remember watching each game and Frank David asking me, who do you think's going to win? I was like, if the Bucks are up by halftime, the Bucks are going to win. He's like, no way. And every time he asked me, who was going to win based off of that, they won, because I knew the momentum needed to be going in the direction of the Bucks if they're going to win, because of how many talented players Phoenix had and who were hitting all the cylinders. And unfortunately for Phoenix that year, Chris Paul disappeared in those last couple games. It was not a big factor in any of those games. Booker couldn't do it all by himself. But so I'm looking forward to an exciting NBA Finals.
Awesome, man. You said it great. Let's be frank. You had an amazing take earlier, and I'm gonna have to steal that earlier. About the John Morant situation, because you hit that on the head. Thanks for everyone that decided to join us on the stream today. Give a shout out to Kennedy and to Guitar Tim. Make sure to hit that notification button, okay? If you're watching,
sorry, we've been inconsistent. We've been inconsistent lately, so
yeah, and I'm sorry. But definitely, our short takes are there. You can on every platform at Jive Turkey 65. Let's be frank, is on every platform, I think, as well too.
Every platform, almost
every platform. And then as well, I have to give thanks to my affiliates, Apex Predators Outfitters. You can check them out. They are a veterans organization. They have some great gear. Go check it out. And if you like firearms like myself, and let's be frank to you, you have Hill & Company Firearm Solutions as well. Check them out. You can use Jive Turkey 65 for both websites, giving 10% off on everything. And that's the cool part about Firearm Solutions and both Apex Predators Outfitters. They're both veteran-owned organizations, and that is what we're going across, which is making sure that we are partnering with the individuals that we are associated with, and we align with the same morals that they do as well.
Awesome.
Thank you for everyone that decided to show up. Make sure to share, comment, like, hit that subscribe button like always. Go show some love to Frank as well. That guy's doing some great things over there. Frank, I know you've got a lot of things cooking. Go check him out come next week. I know he's got a lot of good stuff that's in the works, that's brewing. So definitely go show that support to him, as he has shown his support to this channel as we continue to grow, as we get ready to hit the summer. Summer's going to be a little challenging for us, but we will I'll still make it on. But it's going to be a little challenging for summertime. But stay with us. Definitely hit those questions, hit those, and keep us accountable sometimes. It's okay. We all need accountability sometimes.
Yeah, that was the thrust of the of tonight's segment. Was accountability. We all need it. We all need it.
Go out, hit those golf courses. Definitely hit those golf courses.
I need to hit some golf courses. We haven't hit a golf ball in probably a month. So yeah.
Yeah. But we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we are ending the streams. Thank you so much, you guys. And